Yahweh Shemel Shah, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High.
But in the kingdom, we're going to have that power like the angels, but we're going to be what you call extraterrestrial. In other words, we're not going to be regular terrestrial like we are right now. Because what happened is, in the ancient world, we had that power. We had that power when we were on a level like gods. But what happened is, the Most High took that power from us. Over the generations and over the years, the Lord took that power from us. But we're going to get that back. We're going to get that power back coming into the kingdom.
I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord.
Yahweh Shemel Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them to us by his Spirit.
When we think about the kingdom, most brothers think of like the small, minute terms. But the vastness of the kingdom, the greatness of the kingdom, dealing with the knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and the information alone that we're going to receive when we get to the kingdom, that's on a whole nother level. Never mind the riches and the lands and the women and the children, and to be in your chariot, sipping some yayan, on your chalice, your gold chalice with all them rubies and emeralds and sapphires and the different precious stones, going to places.
But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit.
No one, no matter how vivid a brother's imagination is, there's nothing in comparison to what's coming. You can't even imagine. You can't even paint it a picture or write it into words or give an explanation that even comes close to the majesty that's coming. We are destined for greatness in the new righteous kingdom.
But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit.
The brother with the most vivid imagination out there can't imagine what the kingdom of heaven has in store, what it's going to be like. What we're basing the kingdom of heaven as far as riches and having a good time and things of that nature is just based off of our experiences in this world and what we think having a good time is and living the life is.
Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. There are pleasures forevermore at thy right hand. So the kingdom that's coming is going to be set up and established in righteousness. The Israelites are going to be changed. Thy people shall be all righteous. Not one Israelite is going to be lost, because the promise that the Most High made to Abraham was to all that seed. And the seed of the promise went from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. Every seed that came out of Jacob is a part of the ones that are going to receive the benefits that the Most High promised to blessed Abraham.
Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
The transfer of rulership is coming, and the kingdom of heaven will be on earth. Righteousness will be spread throughout the whole four corners of the earth. Wickedness will be put down.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh.
According to the Holy Scriptures, Yahweh Shai, the Son of the Most High, is set to bring immortality to the nation of Israel, the elect, via establishing the tabernacle of David, as we talk about the second coming of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. He is coming to take down this current world ruled by Esau, Edom, and establish a righteous kingdom, which is synonymous with the throne of David. That's scriptural, which is a government that's going to run this world in righteousness.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing and salutation. Hopefully, like out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, push and get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Shai. And what I want to get into this morning, all right, through the spirit, is going into another morning news and prophecy, quick war update, this wicked enterprise, that Esau was trying to establish, and it only gets worse, because we're coming into the time where things are only going to get worse, man, as these devils, attempt to bring in, all right, this new world order, where they have a depopulation agenda, and they want to create, mass desperation. Okay. And with this narrative of an energy crisis, okay, they're going to be able to push society, to a place of complete desperation, especially over here in the West in America, man, because it's going to be the worst right here in America. All right. And everything that we see happening, on the flip side, is working for our behalf, so it's beautiful that the, they're running with the narrative. Okay. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz is remaining the same. All right. You had, Iran, strike, or shoot missiles at an American Navy vessel. Okay. So they're saying that the ceasefire, could collapse, within these coming days, and they can go back into a full blown, shooting war, which is only going to escalate and get more nations more involved. Okay. So the Lord has everything in motion, man. And it's all, okay, for the sake of ushering in a righteous kingdom, and we went into this yesterday, but I want to get it again today. This is Second Ezra 4:8 says, but it's concerning the things whereof thou asking me. All right, because Ezra was inquiring about the end. Ezra was inquiring about the end of the age of the heathen and the beginning of the blessings, that was promised to Israel, man. Okay, because that's what this thing is about. The Lord is getting ready to bless his people forever. And before, we're blessed forever. All right, there's judgment that has to go forth. Okay. There's a time like no other that has to happen. Okay, so what we're seeing, with these energy crises, these talk of energy crisis, well, these things are going to lead into the worst time ever. It's going to lead to civil unrest. It's going to lead, to mass death. It's going to lead to, extreme violence. And the Lord, all right, is finna open up, the teeth of wild beasts. Okay. These apparitions, demons and spirits, it's going to be pandemonium. Okay. Blackouts. Okay. Mercenaries, AI machinery. You know, this devil, he's finna unleash some things, man. Because one thing about the devil as well, you know, another thing that he's doing, you know, even in these different wars and conflicts, he's testing the AI. You know, he's training AI on warfare. Okay, and his mind, he plans on governing the planet Earth. Okay, with AI law enforcement, man. You see, he wants to make law enforcement completely autonomous. You see, that's a part of the new world order as well. Okay, something that doesn't have any emotion. Okay, they're just there to do Esau's bidding. Okay, so this devil, he has a lot going on at the same time. All right, and we know that this devil is going to fail. Okay, so when you go into it, it says, I will tell thee, for the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet. So there's, you know, been evil sown in the earth, going all the way back to the garden. You know, even out of the flood, you know, that wickedness, you know, would spring back forth in the earth. Okay, beginning with those Hamites, you know, those Cushites, you know, which Nimrod. Okay, when you go into his story, he went into a rebellion. Okay, against the Most High. Okay, and now, you know, their wickedness, you know, has reached a point to where it's become a plague to the whole earth. Okay, and now this devil with this technology, you know, he wants to make the state, he wants to put the earth in a perpetual state of rebellion against the Most High. Okay, so you've had wickedness, you know, that's just been constantly, all right, a plague in the earth, you know, but it wasn't time for the destruction. See, now we're in the time of the destruction, man. See, wickedness, you know, will never dominate the earth again. Okay, and we're learning, all right, in these lowly positions. Okay, as we come into the truth, man, we're learning that wickedness can't be compromised with. Okay, it has to be nipped in the bud immediately. Okay, and that's the role we're going to play as joint heirs with Yahushua, man, is maintaining righteousness in the earth forever. You see, so now everything is full circle. Now we're in a time, all right, for this great judgment and also a great deliverance. You see, we're in a time of a great judgment and a great deliverance, man. Okay, so as we go into these times, the worst time ever, just know for the elect, the Lord is finna do the as we come to the worst time, the Lord's getting ready to do the most miracles ever as well. You know, he's getting ready to show out for his people. Okay, he's getting ready to make statements through judgment and through mercy, man. You know, to show that he is. You see, verse 29, if therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good. So if therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, which is this kingdom, all right, sown by Esau. Okay, so it's a kingdom sown in wickedness and rebellion. Okay, and the devil think that with this technology, he can forward himself in the earth forever. You know, he can establish, all right, a permanent kingdom through witchcraft, you know, data, okay, technology, okay, weaponry. You see? So this man is trying to establish a completely, all right, a complete kingdom of rebellion forever, man. But no, the Lord is turning it upside down. It's being turned upside down now. You know, even Esau, you know, doing a controlled demolition on the global, okay, economy, you know, controlled demolition on American society, okay. Well, he's just a puppet for the Most High. He's the biggest puppet, you know, because Esau prides himself on putting puppets in all these different positions of authority, and he controls the puppets from the background. Well, the biggest puppet is Esau, you know, because he's beginning, okay, to turn this place upside down, which that's what the Lord wants, man. Okay, and the Lord is going to keep continuing way. The Lord is going to keep continuing the demolition way past what Esau intends. Okay, America going to be a desert. All right, this whole, you know, New world order infrastructure gonna be destroyed. Okay, the governments of the earth are gonna be subdued by Yahweh Shai. Okay, and it's gonna be a complete takeover. It's gonna be a righteous takeover, man. Okay, and we're seeing the build up to these things. Okay, now when you go to the next chapter, the second Ezra 5:1, because before we get to the return of Yahweh Shai, man, we coming into some very heavy times. Okay, and this devil, he's running with the narrative, man, because the gas, is constantly shooting up. The national average is close, it's over $4 now. And it's gonna keep going up, all right, because this is the squeeze that these devils want, all right, to get compliant. Well, first to cause civil unrest. Okay, they want people, all right, they want people to start taking each other out, man. They want that purge type atmosphere. Okay, so they're intentionally putting a strain on the resources. Okay, they're intentionally bringing this crisis, man. All right, which is going to provoke what the government to come in, begin to regulate, and that's when they're going to start implementing this new system. When things get to the point to where the government has to intervene and begin to regulate, bring back order. Okay, the order out of chaos method. All right, and it says, nevertheless, is coming the tokens. Behold, the days shall come that they which dwell upon the earth shall be taken in great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. And people are getting ready to be taken in great number, man, whether, that's through them being unalive or them bending the knee to this system, man. People are getting ready to be taken in great number because the Lord is going to allow this man to bring about a lot of desperation, man. Let's say there's mass civil unrest, man. Okay. Scream famine, poverty. Famine is going to be on a whole nother scale. Okay. You see? And people in their mind, all right, they don't understand how far this is going to go, because they look at this as people been calling the C19, all right, 2.0, the lockdowns 2.0. Okay, so in their mind, things are gonna get rough for some time, but in their mind, they think, okay, it's gonna get back, gonna bounce back just like we did the first lockdown. Store up a little food and just bounce back, ride this thing out. Nah, man, it's gonna go to a place, okay, that people have no idea. The Lord finna bring some dark, horrific times to the world, man, especially here in America, man. And it says the truth shall be hidden, the famine of the word. Okay, and you people that have ignored the truth, you Israelites that have ignored the truth, man, you're just going to be out there operating off instinct, man, and it's going to be horrific. You see, you're just going to be left to your instincts. Okay, and it's going to be horrific, man. It says, and the land shall be barren of faith, but iniquity shall be increased above that which now seest, or that thou hast heard long ago, man. So the time is going to get worse, man. People are going to get worse. Okay, people, are going to become more violent. Okay, people are going to become, all right, more, bugged out. People finna lose it. Okay, people finna crash out. Okay, and people are just finna loop that. People, we're finna see America get very primitive. The land that was, used to so much, convenience and abundance. We went into the other day, or last night, how America wastes 30 to 40% of its food. The food that America wastes, could feed, multiple countries. Just the food that America wastes. Okay, it could feed several small countries, man. Okay. So this place has gotten used to so much, abundance and convenience, that when these things are snatched away, man, it's going to turn to a jungle. Okay. There's going to be survival, okay, of the fittest, man. Okay. This devil, the scripture speak about pestilence that's going to be, which famine, weakens your immune system. Okay. So you're going to have You know, the teeth of wild beasts. You know, scripture about how animals shall remove from their place. Okay, the Lord gonna put death angels on people, man. It's gonna be a time, man. You know, like never before. You see, and for the Lord to make that statement, you have to wonder, like, damn, what's the Lord finna do? Because there's been some horrific times in the earth, man. Okay, so let's go here, and then we'll start going into a couple of these videos. When you go to 2 Ezra 16 and 21, all right, it says, "Behold, the victual shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they should think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth." And see, evils are growing, you know, and people, you know, they still have this sense of, you know, normalcy. Okay, even though, you know, prices are rising, you know, people are still able to, you know, kick it. You see, certain people, you know, catching pure hell. Okay, when they used to have, you know, portion, a good portion of the population is still able to kick it. Okay, it hasn't got to the point to where the masses, you know, have been priced out. Okay, but it's going to get there because evils are growing. You know, so while people, you know, are still able to move around, like I say, kick it, you know, still do they you know, normal routine to a degree. Okay, people think that they're in good case while these things are happening, man. You know, gas has never risen this fast before. Okay, we've seen high gas prices, but not this fast. So evils are growing upon the earth. Okay, while people, you know, are in this complacent mindset, you know, in this optimistic mindset of things, you know, recovering. Okay, it's only gonna get worse, man. Then it's gonna get worse after that. Okay, it says, and even then shall evil grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Okay, shall the sword destroy, man. You see, so we're coming to the time where many are going to perish by famine. Okay, and if you escape, all right, the hunger, okay, you're gonna deal with the civil unrest, man, the crazy violence that's gonna be going. Okay, verse 23 says, "And the dead shall be cast out of the dawn, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down." Yeah, because if you're, you know, let's say you have, you know, surplus food, well, guess what? You're a target now. Okay, so they coming with them swords. All right, and this is going to be going on all throughout, you know, the earth, especially here in America, man. You know, because everyone has a sword here, a weapon. Okay, more guns than people. Okay, so when you remove, okay, the abundance, you know, the convenience from the society, all right, these entitled people are going to lose it, man. You know, it's and America already has no morals, no standards. Everyone is already shisty, you know, grimy. Okay, so it's not going to take quick, man, for America, right, to go into a state of complete anarchy, man. Okay, when these entitled people are not getting their fix. Okay, and it says cities shall be cast down, man. These people finna tear these cities up, man. And the devil, you know, he's gonna unleash. I'm telling you know, he's gonna be experimenting with his AI weaponry, man. The drones, robot dogs, police, you know, the bots, the mercenaries, you know, equipped with AI weaponry and different software, you know. So all these things are gonna be unleashed, man. Okay, this is what we're seeing. This narrative is building up to with this whole energy crisis lockdown. You know, people, you know, have become numb to it. You know, the sleep. You know, they did a few videos when it first happened, but now, you know, you might get a complaint about the gas prices, but gas prices are going to be the least of your worry. All right, the way that this thing go. Okay, now let's go here. I want to you know, this from the beloved of the brother Rakaya Kwon. Okay, and I got another video to back it up, man, because he made a point dealing with the government. During crisis, the government is going to intervene, and we're going to see a rationing system, man. Okay, so let's play this.
This situation that's pretty much got the world in a chokehold is going to continue, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, leading up to the time of Jacob's trouble, World War III, and as I'm focusing on in this video, the mark of the beast, right? Because the governments are going to have to step in and take control of what little resources is available, and that's going to be done through a digital system. All right, and they're just waiting for it to get worse in order to do that. They already got it planned out and ready to roll out. Okay, so the strait is going to remain closed because it's a great tool for achieving these things. All right, so this is another article that came out, and it spoke about Brits must brace for energy rationing as Middle East chaos causes shortages. X number 10 export warns. And that's, more and more, that's what's going to go down. All right, now, like with any of these events, the C19 event and all these events, it plays into the hands of the, Agenda 2030. And it's very interesting that I asked, the artificial Idumea about this, about how the closure of the Strait of Hormuz accelerates certain parts of the United Nations agenda, right? And here you have this energy shock, faster green transition, all right? So places like China that have been going more towards solar energy, well, that helps in situations like this. So it pushes everyone to move into solar energy and away from the petrochemicals sooner. All right. Fuel inflation leads to what? Digital rationing systems, the MOTB system. It says when diesel, petrol, heating costs spike, governments often introduce energy allowances, digital vouchers, smart metering, usage caps, targeted subsidies, and consumption monitoring. Technology can include digital ID verification, programmable payments, household energy dashboards, and carbon accounting systems. This is all MOTB stuff that can support efficient allocation and shortages, fraud reduction, and targeted relief.
Yeah, so with this energy, with the energy crisis, narrative, and they allow this thing, to get to the point of anarchy, okay, which is going to allow these different governments, to intervene and say, well, look, we need to bring back order, okay, which is going to bring in a police state, because the New World Order is a continual police state, so the things that they do, to attempt to bring the peace, okay, back to these cities, through heavy, mercenaries and martial law, all right, through law enforcement, through the AI drones and, okay, these camera systems, okay, and the way to bring organization is to start to ration, all right, and able to get your ration, it's going to be digital IDs, ultimately the CHIP. Okay, but the things that they plan on implementing as a fix of the problem is the things that they want to keep in place, which is a heavy patrol, okay, police state. All right, the New World Order is a continual police state. Okay, it's a continual surveillance system. It's a continual rationing system. Okay, so the things that they're going to bring about, to say that, okay, this is the fix to the chaos. Well, that's the thing that they wanted to do anyway. All right. But chaos just justifies, all right, their extreme change. Because, see, they need to make some drastic changes, to thrust, okay, society into this new world order, especially here in America, which is behind. And that's why it's going to be the worst. That's why it's going to be the most brutal, man. The Lord set that up like that, man. Okay? Because the Lord has a problem, a major problem in Babylon. Okay? The scripture refers to Babylon as the most proud. You see? When you go there, Jeremiah 50, 31, 32. You see, matter of fact. And that's why America going to get all the missiles, man. America is going to get the worst part, okay, of Jacob's trouble. And it's going to get, okay, those missiles, the worst part of World War III. Okay? But yeah, my brother want to post it in Jeremiah 50, all right, in verse 30, and also Ezekiel 4 and 16 and 17. But also let's get that in Jeremiah, all right, 50. I believe it's let me make sure. I'm gonna let some more of that play and then segue to another video to bag the brother up. All right, so there you go, Jeremiah 50 and matter of fact, at 50, let's get verses 29 through 32. So you get all the meat on it. Okay, so let's go back here, play a little bit of this.
All right, but critics worry this could evolve into behavioral controls. What did Starmer say? You have to change your behavior. This is nothing new. This is what they've been saying at the WEF about changing behavior of the people.
Yeah, and the quickest way to change the behavior is through trauma and fear. Trauma and fear. Fear, anxiety, all right, desperation is the best way to change the behavior control. Okay, because they plan, like I said, they plan on doing a lot of depopulation, and those that survive the depopulation, okay, will have to get a device, man. All right, and people that survive, this depopulation phase, they're gonna be traumatized, they're gonna be fearful, and they're gonna be extremely more compliant. Okay, because just for the promise of peace, they're going to be compliant, man. Okay, so the quickest way to change people's behavior, okay, is through chaos, man, through fear, through shock and awe. All right, the traumatic events. Okay.
All right. I believe BlackRock, the head of BlackRock, came out and spoke about using the system to change people's behavior. All right. Programmable spending restrictions tied to surveillance infrastructure. This overlaps with the Agenda 2030 themes around inclusion, all right, which means he calls it all. When you're talking about inclusion, banking the unbanked, that's the same as saying he calls it all. All right. They want everyone to be brought into this new system. All right. That's alive anyway. Digital infrastructure, sustainable consumption. Sustainable consumption is a code word for depopulation and a complete reduction. And this is what you're seeing. You're seeing that. Everything is going to be reduced. People's ability to buy is going to be reduced. The ability to produce is being reduced. Everything's being downsized. Europe is being downsized. America is being downsized. This is why Trump came out and said, listen, you're going to have $1 instead of 5. You're going to have to pay the price. You're going to have to go through pain, right? The manufacturing ain't coming back. Everything's going to be brought low to the minimum. That's what sustainability means. You will have the bare minimum. Meanwhile, the elites get to enjoy the luxuries. But whether it becomes empowering or restrictive, depending on governance. Fertilizer shock, food system transformation, Hormuz disruption affects ammonia, urea, phosphate, sulfur trade.
Yeah. So, the main point, there's a brother's going into, their rationing. The government is going to have to intervene. Okay. Which, let me cue this up. All right. Let me cue this up. Okay. Now, this was like 13 days ago. All right, and this is a European central bank. All right, and the central bank are owned by the Rothschilds. All right, okay, the European Central Bank. Okay, so she's speaking on behalf, okay, of the elites, man. All right, this old witch, you see, is speaking on behalf of the elites. Okay, so she's saying that hey, the crisis is going to get to the point to where the price is going to get so bad that the government gonna have to intervene. She's plainly saying it. Okay, like I say, it's going to be the worst right here in the U.S. of A. Okay, so let's play this and then we'll get some of these comments off the pieces of comment board about Shah. So let's play this.
Is shipped through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that is also at risk. And it matters particularly in the southern hemisphere, where the planting and therefore the fertilizers is badly needed now. Because if the price of food increases significantly, it is not going to just be the price of food, it is going to be inflation expectations. Because we know that people are particularly attentive to two things: the price of food, processed and unprocessed, and the price of gas at the petrol station. So if the disruption persists long enough, the adjustment shifts from prices, which we are putting up with now, to possibly rationing, with very different economic consequences. A third of the fertilizers is shipped through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that is also at risk. And it matters particularly in the southern hemisphere, where the planting and therefore the fertilizers is badly needed now. Because if the price of food increases significantly, it is not going to just be the price of food, it is going to be inflation expectations. Because we know that people are particularly attentive to two things: the price of food, processed and unprocessed, and the price of gas at the petrol station. So if the disruption persists long enough, the adjustment shifts from prices, which we are putting up with now, to possibly rationing, with very different economic consequences. A third of...
So she says it's going to go from prices to rationing. Okay, well, who's going to be in control of the rationing? You see? So they already have things in place, okay, to roll out their system, man. And they got to come on with it. The Lord is putting, pressure on these devils. They got to come on with it, man. Okay. Now, when you go here, let's get a couple of these precepts. I'm cute. Another video up because I have it up there, but we get some of these precepts. All right. But she said that 2 weeks ago. Okay. That look, the price is gonna get so bad, we're gonna have to start rationing. Well, who's gonna be over the rationing? Okay. Who's gonna be over that? Okay. What system are they gonna roll out to begin these rationing, man? Okay. So let's play this real quick. Well, let's cue this up and get some of these precepts. And like I say, how bad you think it's going to be in America? Remember, Europe, they don't have, the liberties that Americans have, the gun rights and, open carry and all. They can't do that, everywhere in the world. But they could do that in America, man. Okay? That's why it's going to be a bloodbath in America, man. To attempt to establish this new world order. This is the brother of Mark Ball. All right, this is Jeremiah 50, all right, 29 through 32. And it says, call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape, recompense her, okay, according to her work. According to all that she have done, do unto her, for she have been proud against the Lord, against the Holy One of Israel. And see, America been doing these nations bad, man. Like America, this run that they've had, as the sole superpower of the earth. Okay, the global reserve currency. This military might that's able to spread itself, far, that has all this reach. Okay, so America has really you know, been getting out on these nations, man. And it's going to lead to all these nations shooting missiles, man, especially if they see America, you know, as vulnerable, man. You know, they see America and lost a step or two, man. And at the end of the day, they finna nuke America, man. Okay? When Esau get through with all these schemes and plots and the 6G towers and this and that, all this he got going on, man, the Lord, all right, is going to bring a swift end to this place, man. He's going to allow these Americans, you know, to suffer, you know, during this tribulation. And those that survive the tribulation, he's going to nuke them. Shows you that how much the Lord hates, okay, America, man, Americans, that mindset, that culture, because it's rebellious, it's lewd, okay, it's wicked, it's proud, all right, and he's going to go into it, it's going to go into it. It said, therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, all right, it said, therefore shall all her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in the day, said the Lord. Yeah, so what we're seeing, all right, with America, man, okay, as they begin, especially as they start to get deployed, you know, to this war, man, they're gonna be cut off, man. It's the Lord is breaking this place down. Okay, it's the Lord is breaking down this whole system, man. It's gonna go way beyond what these elites plan on doing, man. The Lord is speeding this thing up faster than they want to go, and He's gonna take it farther than they want to go. Okay, and the things, a lot of these schemes they got planted, man. The Lord is intervening with prophecy, man. Okay, so the American military machine, all right, is going to be dismantled. It's going to be obliterated. You know, it's going to be obliterated, man. The troops are going on crash missions. Okay, the Air Force doesn't have the effect that it used to have. The Navy doesn't have the effect that it used to have, man. Okay, the Saints don't have the effect that they used to have. Okay, in the midst of this, these elites are attempting the New World Order. You know, while all this is going on militarily, man, America gonna get nuked. Okay, that's the gist of it, man. It says, "Behold, I'm against thee, O thou most proud," said the Lord, power of hosts. Okay, so the Lord's against this place, man. He's specifically calling out Babylon, America, man. So the Lord is singling America out, man, for major judgment. It's gonna be bad throughout the earth, man. You know, because this squeeze is gonna be global. Okay, to get global compliance from, all right, these global citizens, man. Okay, but the absolute worst place to be is going to be America, man. The Lord is against this America. Oh, thou most proud, man. You know, we know that one of the things that the Lord hates is pride. If a brother want to get that, Proverbs 6:16, it said, "For thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee." Okay, and the Lord's going to visit this place, man. You know, the Lord's getting ready to visit this place, man, with evil times. Okay, and then the climax of those evil times is the nukes. It says, "And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all right, all round about him." Okay, so, "Oh, thou most proud shall stumble and fall," and these fires is going to be kindled. It's going to ultimately be the nukes, man. But America is going to be a place of major anarchy, man. Okay, a major anarchy. Okay, and these devils, you know, they're going to push, all right, this crisis. I mean, this situation, this narrative, you know, these shortages, they're going to allow it to go into crisis mode. Okay, they're going to create, you know, scarcity. All right, so they're going to manufacture scarcity so they can come in and ration. All right, and this rationing system is going to be digital. Okay, it's going to go digital, man. So Ezekiel 4:16 said, "Moreover, he said unto me, son of man," this is brother Yashima, tribe of Judah. He said, "Moreover, he said unto me, son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem," man. You know, and you niggas, all right, you Israelites that have refused this word, man, you're finna catch it, because when economies collapse, when you have a global collapse, okay, and in this global collapse, you know, the poor countries are going to suffer first. Okay, in the first world countries, and in each country, all right, who suffers the worst is, all right, the poor class. Okay, So the Lord got you niggas in a position to suffer because you refuse to repent. You know, that's why he will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, man. Because there's going to be a time of Jacob trouble, and you know you niggas are going to be cut off first, man. Okay, it says, and they shall eat bread by weight. You see, and weight what it says, and with care, and they shall drink water by measure. It sounds like rationing, man. You know, whether you have to go to self-rationing, which you people don't got no goddamn discipline, man. All right, to do no self-rationing, man. Okay, you're gonna be beasts eating everything in sight and trying to destroy and take and kill and rob to survive, man. Okay, and then big daddy government is gonna step in. Okay, with you know, with the Palantir drones on your ass. Okay, wreaking havoc. You see, and they're gonna offer that pseudo salvation, man, which is the digital system ultimately see him. Okay. Verse it says you eat your water by measure and with astonishment. All right, verse 17. And it says that they may want bread and water and be astonished one another and consume away for their iniquity. That's a judgment. So the Lord wants people to starve to death for punishment, man. It's the Lord doing this, at least. In their mind, they're thinking, you know, about their enterprise, but the Lord is judging through them. And when he's finished judging through them, he's going to judge them. Okay? So let's go here real quick. This is the brother. All right, the brother Corner Wild GMS, but I always hope for late. Proverbs 6:16 said, these 16 doth the Lord hate. Yeah. 7 are an abomination unto them. Okay, it says a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Okay, in American culture embodies that, man. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, man. Okay, and this is the culture of America, man. Okay, serial killers are glorified. All right, the most degenerate people are honored and worshiped. Okay, everyone's proud. Okay, nothing but lies run the earth, adultery. Okay, it's a madhouse, man. Okay, so the Lord is going to judge this place with terrible times, leading all the way up to the nukes, man. Okay, and it says, verse 18 says, in the heart that divides a wicked imagination. That's you know, and it begins with you at least, man, because this whole new world order is a wicked imagination against the Lord. All right, and you people on the lower level, all right, you know, you're engulfed in your daily folly, your wicked imaginations, okay, and feet, all right, then run, and all right, they be swift and run into mischief, man, okay. So the Lord is going to bring the pain, you know, in these times to come. So what we're seeing, you know, with these, with this crisis, with this narrative of an energy crisis, man. All right, the Lord is going to put the spirit on these elites to try to spin off their new world order. You know, and before that, they got to bring the chaos, the depopulation. Okay, the chaos, the unrest. Okay, to create the atmosphere with desperation and fear. Okay, so let's play this.
Well, we believe having the ability to save and transact is something that should be universal, and a lot of forms have adopted that goal. We won't be able to do that with traditional systems. That is, the cost of bank branches and paperwork is just too high. But fortunately, starting with countries like Kenya, and more recently with a robust system in places like India, we see that you can have digital financial inclusion. India is a great example. They did a lot of their own technology, which won't be possible for other countries. And so the role of the Gates Foundation as an advocate for those who don't have access today is to make sure there's technology and standards, including open source work that we're providing through the financial switch, which is called Mojaloop, and through the digital identity system, which is extremely valuable, not just for financial activities, but for health and voting and education, and that's called MOSIP.
Since there isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all solution, what is the role that you see the private sector playing in being able to collaborate with different governments to ensure that we move forward?
Well, once you have the digital money system, then there's all sorts of services and applications that can be built on top of that, whether it's helping with health or education or agriculture, giving people visibility into their financial status, giving them advice, should they take a loan, should they buy insurance, what makes sense. The phone becomes a connection for low cost interaction with those customers that doesn't require human activity that would be beyond the means of the people we're trying to get to who don't yet have these accounts. So the digital revolution, which of course was where I worked before moving full time to the foundation, here we're trying to make sure that the developing countries have the benefit.
They say the developing country, those are the countries that they're robbing of the resources. Right? The reason why because they, like I say, they change, and this devil, he's good at changing the title and making it sound good, man. This nigga is good at changing titles, okay, to romanticize his wickedness, man. Okay, but he talks about these developing countries. These are the countries that are rich in resources, okay, but have poor economies because devils like him go set up shop, extrapolate the resources, okay, hire the locals for pennies, okay, and transfer the wealth, all right, to these private oligarchs, man, these private families, man, okay, that own, all right, the the manufacturing, to put these resources on the global market, man. Okay, and then he's speaking about, because he's going to go into it, because he speak about, it's easier to do it, in these lesser developed nations because they don't have all the guardrails and constitutions. Basically, that's what he's saying, what they call legacy systems, which means nations that have, these traditional constitutions and these centuries old, all right, styles of government, certain rights that the citizens have. They call their legacy systems, which he's going to speak on, all right. But he's saying, look, we can start with these developing nations, all right, because you look at Africa, all 54 African countries are all aboard, all right, for a digital system. Okay, so let's play this.
Cases before it gets to even some of the rich countries who have legacy systems that people are so used to that the speed that they'll transition out of them, won't be as fast as, say, China or India that didn't have that history. And so it's really learning what worked in China and India, and now making it easy for even smaller countries to do this, working with a lot of partners, including the World Bank, African Development Bank, many of them. So private sector will help these centers.
So he says, look, these nations that have these legacy systems, and he's speaking of America, man, because the American Constitution, it did empower the people. It gave the people a lot of rights that other nations didn't have. And when he says, it's easier to deal with these developing countries because they don't have these long-standing traditions. So he's saying it without saying it. They got to break America up, man. The American society. Okay, because remember the financial system, all of it is going digital. Okay, the military is going, all right, AI. That's what they want to do. They want to govern, okay, the world, all right, with AI, law enforcement. That's why Palantir is being trained, by ICE, the IDF. Okay, and how to be a terror to citizens, man. Because they're terrible at fighting actual wars. Okay, but if for terrorizing citizens, the AI does wonders for these devils, man. Okay, so yeah, he's letting you know, like, look, all these, these legacy. He's mainly talking to America, man. You see, when you understand where these devils are trying to go, okay, and you understand these devils' agendas, man. You see when they talk, man, they really be saying a lot without saying a lot. So let's play a little bit more of this.
Central banks create these systems, but moreover, the phone companies, the banks, and the entrepreneurs will build applications that use these financial capabilities.
Does it help people with the strength of their cell phones? And technically, what is the benefit for everyday users out there?
I mean, if you just imagine the not sort of like gigabytes, but terabytes of data moving super fast and at a super, a lot of data at one time, a super big bandwidth of data. So what 6G would let us do is have super fast connections no matter where we go. You wouldn't think about, oh, do I have Wi-Fi at home and do I have wireless in my car when I'm driving around or if I'm traveling? These things would just become all one. And we wouldn't think about not being connected. We'll look back at that. At that point, we'll look back and we'll say, wow, 5G, that was so yesterday. We used to have routers at home and we used to have to, we'd have to pick
the future is now,
go to a certain area to go faster. It is.
Yeah.
It actually is now because the president, we're looking at 6G, by the way. I mean, this may advance it, but 2030 is really the target date for that. Okay. But by what the president did, it might happen a lot faster.
And here I am. I just want outlets on all airplanes, and we're talking about 6G. It's blowing my mind.
Quick question. This really isn't one I need you to answer. Will Carly's BlackBerry, which he basically had up until like last year, work on 6G?
I held on
we'll have to bring nothing wrong with the BlackBerry.
Until the company
there are people who dream about getting a BlackBerry.
About 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual, kind of the most common interface. Wow. Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
Many of the things will be directly into our bodies, and that's the main point. Okay, cell phones will be irrelevant. Okay, and that fully puts you in a digital prison. Okay, and this whole 6G thing, it's all a digital system that these devils, okay, they're getting ready to roll out. Okay, the atmosphere has to be created. Okay, it's going to create their desperation. So let's play
earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual, kind of the most common interface. Wow. Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
Yeah, man. And they've been at this for a while, since 2020. All right, they really, been aggressive. They pulled back, with the lockdown, okay, in 2020. And now they're back at it. Okay. Now they're back at it, and things that were done in 2020, their juice, man. I don't believe we've seen the end of that, man. They put technology already in a lot of people, man. Some people got the death juice, okay, and maybe others got, mostly technology. We don't know, but we know, all right, this devil did something major with that, man. And it's just things that's dormant in people's bodies. Okay, certain technologies, and they're gonna go into it with this, man. All right, so let's play this. Okay.
Well, a few years ago here on Redacted, we covered Sweden's bizarre microchip implanting story and their plan, which would have everyday citizens opting to have microchips implanted right into their bodies, right into their hands, the RFID or near field communications chips, or NFC, basically the size of a grain of rice. And thousands of Swedes took the plunge. And many, since this story first published, many more thousands have taken the plunge. The idea is that the chips would speed up your user's daily life, make their lives more convenient, access their homes, office, gyms, just swipe it right on your door or keypad and you're right in there. Here is one of the individuals lining up to get one of the chip implants. And just being able to get it poked right in the hands. Now, when the program started, the demand was off the charts. There were waiting lists. Companies could insert these things. They couldn't insert these things fast enough. And then shortly after it won high praise from the World Economic Forum.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to track people and they let you.
Exactly.
That's on them.
So World Economic Forum's like, hey, this is great. And if you read the article, the World Economic Forum piece on this, they even point out that's no big deal. It's just like a simple, like a slight sting in when you get it. No big deal.
Imagine telling our youngest who hates shots, that you're just going to get this chip forever. It's only going to hurt for a little bit.
And it will be able to track everything that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Flash forward to 2026, and now these micro and where are things at with this program? We wanted to check in on this program, see how it's being floated for digital IDs, digital currency, how it's competing with the incredibly popular bank ID system in Sweden. It's very, very popular. It's almost at 100% usage, the bank ID system in Sweden, 100%, up to 8.7 million users now across the country. It's basically their dominant digital ID system. So is there a marriage between like implanting yourself now and all they want to do is track you? Well, today we're thrilled to have Maria Zeee joining us today to talk all about this from Zeee Media, and who's been watching, of course. She has very keen insights into watching how all of this tracking across these countries around Europe, through Australia, the United States, are unfolding, and watching this legislation that's been moving. Great to see you, Maria. Welcome back to the show.
Great. You both again. Thank you so much for inviting me. These particular chips, I will say from the outset, I'm not that worried about the microchips, and I'll explain why. The uptake, yes, there were a few thousand people that rushed to do it in the beginning, but I think that pretty much after 2018, that slowed down a lot. There was the initial rush of, a few thousand that said, yeah, this is great, and we're probably paid to do it. But it's not something that's widely popular at.
Well, it's going to be enforced. That's one thing that she don't understand, is that these things will be enforced. So Sweden is 10 years in the game. They pretty much been operating, within the New World Order. Okay, and like I said, you have China. Okay, all they need is to mandate the CHIP. They fully in. India, okay, mandate the CHIP. They fully in. Okay, because they have the digital infrastructure already, established, man. Okay, I say Russia, Africa, they're on board. Okay, so you have, the Lord allowing these devils, to roll this thing out, because we need this nigga to roll this out, because he got to get to a certain point. So it's good to see him rolling this out, but then you still have the military conflicts in the background, and these military conflicts gonna, work their way to center stage. Okay, as this devil rolls this thing out. So it's beautiful how the Lord got this thing working, man. And everything is working in our favor. All right, but what she doesn't know, because people love to be optimistic and think that they have, they're going to have the normalcies that they have today going forward. Nah, it's over with, man. Okay, that's done. Okay, it's going to get worse before it gets worse. All right.
This stage. What I'm more concerned about, truthfully, is an admission from MIT that happened in November of 2025. So a publication from MIT News actually reads, quote, "New therapeutic brain implants could defy the need for surgery." Now, I'll read you a couple of quotes from this article. It is extremely alarming. MIT researchers developed microscopic wireless bioelectronics that could travel through the body's circulatory system and autonomously self-implant in a target region of the brain where they could provide quote-unquote focused treatment, because it's about treating Alzheimer's and things of this nature, right? Not covert operations, everyone. In a study on mice, the researchers show that after injection, these minuscule implants can identify and travel to a specific brain region without the need for human guidance. Once there, they can be wirelessly powered to provide electrical stimulation to the precise area. So a couple of things here. We're talking about self-assembling nanotechnology that can form brain implants that is, one, done through injection, so vaccines, and two, does not need any human intervention once it's been administered through the quote-unquote vaccine. Now, we know
there's no telling what that nigga put in people, man. You know, there's a chance because some people that was getting the juice, they was, you know, being compatible with Bluetooth. You know, I remember when we used to do we had to go to you know, the alternative, you know, media sites because they were restricting so hard on the YouTube when we were reporting during the lockdown. You know, a lot of alternative sites, man. You had people going in and going into rooms or hospitals where people were getting their juice, and just all these different compatible, you know, Bluetooth, okay, identities, the Bluetooth, you know, when you turn on the Bluetooth to pair, you know, you had all these different devices just pop up these different numbers, man. You know, with these people that were juice, man. So there's no telling what technology this man will put in these people, man. You know, ain't no telling what this nigga done done. But it goes with trusting the goddamn devil, man. Okay? It goes with trusting the goddamn devil, man. You see? Which there was Jeremiah 17 and I think 5 and 6. Your brother want to get that, you know?
Clayton, that this is happening through geoengineering. Smart dust has been happening for a very, very long time. And we know that they can administer various types of nanotechnology that can be self-replicating, self-programming through vaccines and other medicines, and also potentially through our food. I'm actually far more concerned about the covert applications of this type of technology than I am about people going and implanting themselves. I dare say there could be quite a few people walking around with chips already inside of them without knowing it's actually there.
Wait, what is smart dust that you mentioned?
Smart dust, they've been geoengineering for a very, very long time. As you both know, smart dust is essentially programmable dust. This is something that is not detected through the human eye. People talk about how it forms structures even on their walls. I mean, there's a lot of anecdotal information about what smart dust has achieved, but basically when you're talking about the various chemicals that they're spraying, and that also, by the way, includes graphene, Dane Wigington has done independent testing of soil and air and things of this nature and found graphene immediately present after geoengineering has occurred. When you look at what they refer to when it comes to graphene, they say that it's essentially a miracle component that they have started using in medicine. And you'd recall Albert Bourla talking about how, you know, in the future, we're going to have these pills that people can take and they'll tell us whether the person's taken it, what it's doing inside of their bodies. That, of course, is achieved through graphene because it is highly conductive. It is able to send a message back to them. And it's no secret. This isn't a conspiracy theory. Albert Bourla himself has spoken about their ability to do this. There's been a lot of talk back and forward as to whether they can achieve this through geoengineering or vaccines or things of this nature. Their literature absolutely says that it can, and these studies go back decades.
Yeah, and you know, we know, all right, dealing with the MOTB itself, the C-HIP, you know, it's going to be a thing where people are going to be faced with an option. You know, they're going to have that option, you know, to take it or not. All right. And what we do know, all right, you can't put it past the devil, is that he's getting people compatible, all right, with this infrastructure, man, the digital infrastructure, man. Okay? So going back to, you know, the graphene, you know, we couldn't even say that at one point. You know, it was a time where you get a strike for saying that, you know, but going into that, man, that deals with, you know, controlling things remotely. Okay. You know, like your Bluetooth, like the remote, you know, when you control things remotely, that element, that, you know, that material is used to send signals back and forth, man. So, yeah, man, the devil, he's done a lot of wickedness, man. And everything is going to come full circle. All right. What he's been doing is all going to come to a head because now he's in a position, he got to roll this thing out, man. You know, he has to roll this thing out. So let's play a little bit more of this.
Yeah, here's just an example of some of the graphene oxide being manipulated using different frequencies. So this is exactly what individuals like Dane Wigington have been talking about, David Icke, the manipulation of graphene oxide that's in our body, these nanoparticles that can be manipulated and moved. So I think you're right. I think you're hitting on something, because when you look at just the thousands of people that have like willingly put these microchips in their hands, that's a small percentage. But so many people have this in their bodies because of geoengineering, because of what they're spraying in our skies, and because of these COVID jabs.
I wanted the word cuppa, as in cup of tea. I thought it would be great to mix with hug. When I saw the domain was available, I was like, I'm taking it, I'm trademarking it, I'm going with it.
Yes, let me give you some really shocking information. You may know about this. A lot of people don't, actually. So I spoke to Nick Holscher a little while ago, prominent epidemiologist, after I learned about what MIT had admitted here, and asked him whether it was possible that they already covertly did this through the COVID injections. He said, definitely possible. There is some evidence to suggest that they did. But there is another very, very important puzzle piece here, and it comes to us from Bar Ilan University, that's Barilan University in Israel, and their chief scientist Ido Bachelet was actually presenting presenting a TED talk all the way back in 2013, and he basically said at that time we can implant. He said that we can implant hundreds of billions, or 1,000 billion, I think he said, nanorobots into a vaccine. He proudly held up a vaccine during that TED talk. I've done a whole expose on this. He then said in his presentation that people can, they can ensure that they don't, quote unquote, lose control of the nanorobots after they've been injected into people. He stated that the controller is connected to the internet, and I quote, like an Xbox. He then said that the controller actually links these nanobots to the network, that they have an IP address, and that they can be accessed remotely. He bragged about how they can control these nanobots, like with a joystick, to release payloads into humans. This TED Talk happened in 2013. Now, here's the kicker. In 2015, Pfizer announced their partnership with Ido Bachelet of Bar-Ilan University, who already had this tech. So,
God damn. Goddamn devil. 2013 they were speaking about this, man. And then you had Pfizer, join with, those small hats, because there's always the small hats at the forefront, because this goes into the devil want his birthright back, man. He wants control over the people forever. So this devil, he has a lot going on, man. A lot of things finna come to the forefront. Everything finna come out, because he gotta come out with it, man. He gotta roll out this agenda, man. Well, it makes sense, that this devil for the longest is trying to put, nano technology in people, to get them compatible, to be controlled remotely, man. And then that C-HIP, man, it's going to activate some certain frequencies from the 6G, and so this devil got a lot going on, man. This devil has a lot going on, and the water, Yahweh Bashim Al-Shah, that the Lord is going to cause this man to fail. He's only going to get so far, man. And that's the good news. That's a major part of the good news, is that this nigga fails, man. If a brother want to get there, Revelation 12, Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 through 10. So let's play a little more of this.
my point is that while I, of course, am concerned about people willingly implanting themselves, and I do believe free will plays a part in the control of the technocrats, I am very concerned about what covert operations and covert applications have on, I'm concerned about those impacts on the population. And you only need to look at something like Bill Gates' patent 060606. Yes, that's real. Everyone, please go and look up patent 060606, and you will see that the plan plan is to actually be able to mine cryptocurrency with your body's data. Well, how would they do that? They need some sort of sensors, conductors inside of us feeding information back to the data centers through quantum technology. And by the way, Bill Gates is also developing the quantum dot microneedle patch. We can talk about that. Which is real-time data being sent to the powers that be of everything that's going on inside of your body at any given time. And also, of course, your ability to bank, aka mine cryptocurrency, with your body's data, which will tell the powers that be if you are being compliant or not.
I mean, this is a transhumanist agenda. How far do you think that they will take it? I mean, we see evidence of this every single day, of the desire to continuously break down the human elements of our lived experience, but only for us, not for the elites. And, you know, can you play out how far they want to take it?
Yeah, it's always for safety.
Yes, you only need to look to the government of Canada to see how far they want to take it. They published something,
Killing
Policy
you.
Horizons. Well,
Yeah.
right, no, but they actually published something, Policy Horizons published something called Biodigital Convergence. It's an official publication from the government of Canada, and they give you some fictional scenarios in there, but it's absolutely where they want to take it. And they say that we're going to live in a future where you wake up in the morning and the AI that is connected to you through sensors inside your body, which of course are enabled through self-assembling nanotechnology, which can happen covertly. That AI, you wake up, the AI will say, okay, you're missing this vitamin or this nutrient, and then it's going to 3D print it from your counter and give you what you need based on what the AI has assessed that you need. They say that the UN, actually, their publication, Remaking the World Towards an Age of Global Enlightenment, it's the Boston Global Forum that's published it, but they're part of the UN. They say that although we're not going to have a social credit system in like China, but you will only be rewarded with cryptocurrency if you do things that are, you know, acceptable inside the AI world society.
That's a social credit system. Okay, if your rewards is based off your behavior, there's a social credit system. Okay, and it's gonna be worse than China. All right, if America was able to establish this thing, have it functioning. But we don't know how far the Lord gonna let the devil get with this thing, man. You know, but we know when He mandates this thing and people start getting it and, you know, start functioning in society a little bit, it ain't gonna be too long after, man. You know, the mandate of this thing that the Lord is gonna intervene, okay, and destroy everything this man got going on, okay.
So in other words, if you don't live the way we want you to, you will not have access to any currency, and your own body will betray you by the use of patent 0606, of course.
Unbelievable. Well, thank you so much, Marie. We really...
Yeah, so let's get a couple precepts, you know. Get a couple of these precepts brother got. All right. Yeah, man. So all these things is connected, man. That's one thing about it. What we have to understand, you know, these conflicts that we see, you know, they're turning to wars. These things have a long narrative of events that lead to, you know, before the first shot is fired, it's a long narrative of events. And on the flip side with the elites, you know, the digital system is a long narrative of events, you know, that led to this point where we are now. And now these things are merging, okay, the war in this MOTB, okay, and it's going to bring about the complete and utter downfall of Esau Edom, man, okay? And you people trusted this man, okay? And now you don't know what you got inside you, man, okay? So let's go here. This is brother Mark Ball, Jeremiah 17:5. It says, "Thus said the Lord, cursed be the man that trusted in man and make it flesh his arm, and whose heart departed from the Lord, for he shall be like," all right, he shall be like the heath, okay, in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh. Yeah, because if you trust the devil, and ultimately, if you take this sea hill, that's saying you have ultimate trust in Esau, you know. And 2020 was a prelude to how, you know, willing our people are to trust this man, you know, to let this man put something in them, They don't know what it is. Okay? So you take the sea hill, they're saying you fully trust Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. I mean, you fully trust Esau. Okay? And it separates you from Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, man. You know, you tribes, man. You know, because in order to you know, allow this, man, you got to trust this system now. Jake believe in this system, man. Jake is okay with this system. Okay? You're not only just taking this, you know, as okay, I need this to work with, you know, to buy and sell. No, you're saying, okay, I'm in full agreement with this wicked, satanic, rebellious society. I'm okay with it. Okay, shoot me up. Okay? That's the ultimate betrayal of the Israelite, all right, to take this sea hill, man. You know? And it began with the Jews. You see, that mindset of trusting this man, okay, with your life began with the Jews, man. It said, for he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, all right, and they sought and not inhabited, man. And ultimately, it's going to be the nukes. You know, the scripture speak about how the nukes going to turn this place to a wilderness, man. You know, because you take that sea hill, you just sign up for a nuke. You know, you just guaranteed yourself, okay, a nuke. You take this man's sea hill, all right, and this man has nothing good for you, man. Okay, this man has, and then here it is, these devils get to jump on TV and talk about health, man. Look at Esau's track record, and this nigga get to hop on TV and still talk about health, man. Okay, this is brother Yashima, tribe of Judah, Matthew 24 and 22. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened, man. The Lord got to intervene, you know, because Esau is a madman. All right, he's a what they call it, a magnet, if I'm saying it right, narcissist, man. Okay, complete madman. Okay, and this nigga just be experimenting like he got it figured out. This nigga be guessing with a lot of this shit, man. He don't know what fully all these things gonna do. He don't put inside people, man. Esau be guessing a lot of times. He knows some things, and then hey, he guess a lot too, man. Okay, so let's see. Yep, this Revelation chapter 12 and verse 7. It says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought with his angels. Okay, so this is okay that final face off. All right, with Yahweh Shai. All right, Michael represents, you know, the armies of heaven. You know, he's going to be, you know, with Yahweh Shai at his return. Yahweh Shai comes to wage war in righteousness, man. See, that's another part of the good news, man. Our power is going to wage war in righteousness against this devil, man. You know, Yahweh Shai is coming to finalize the madness, man. Put an end to all the madness with all these heathens, man. You know, because all these heathens, all right, are caught up in this folly, in this rebellion. This Revelation 12 and 8. And prevailed not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven. All right, so these devils finna lose. There's no victory for Esau, man. Our power is coming to overthrow this whole system, man. Okay, and every heathen authority that's in the earth is getting ready to go into captivity, man. Okay, and it says neither was their place. All right, so their position, you know, heaven, all right, you know, can go into rulership as well. Okay, was you know, all his infrastructure, his satellites, okay, his air force, his military, you know, aircraft, all that's coming down out the Shemayim to the ground, you know, because that's a context of heaven as well. But then you're gonna have, you know, this devil's position, his place in rulership. It's not gonna be found anymore, man. He's gonna be removed from power completely. Okay, verse 12 it says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, which you know their wickedness goes all the way back to the serpent, man, to the garden. Okay, their witchcraft, their rebellion, because that's what the serpent came to Eve with, was rebellion, and dressed it up like it was empowerment, man. all right, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels, okay, were cast with him as his military. Okay. It's when Esau and his military, man, not Satan and the band of rebellious angels from the heavens. No. It's talking about Esau and his military, man. Okay, because angels are like what? Messengers. Okay. Esau, he can send the air forces like angels, like the Most High dispatch chariots for particular tasks. Well, these devil, he's able to dispatch that air force. Those are like his angels. Okay. So when it speaks about his angels was cast out with him, it's speaking of his military, man. The least going to be removed from power. All right, which they're the closest to Satan. All right, these elite bankers. You see? So they're going to be removed from power, and their militaries are going to be turned to powder and fall to the earth, man. Revelation 12 and 10. And it says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, the kingdom of our power, and it says, and of his anointed, for the accuser of our brother is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night, man. So, we have a victory, man. And our victory is written all throughout the scriptures. Okay, but this devil, he's finna lose, man. Yahweh Shai, okay, is finna deliver a remnant, okay, they're predestined, elect. Okay, he's finna show real power. Okay, and he's finna conquer the earth in righteousness, man. And in the midst of these dark times, man, we have that light, to look forward to, man. Okay, so I'll leave it there. Point been made. All right, so Lord will, all right, you brothers and you few sisters have been edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, and Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards your other brothers. And peace and blessing salutation, hopefully, shalom.